Perfect. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are bang on 11:30. I'm just going to give it a couple of minutes to let anybody else trickle through, and we will start the webinar shortly. Just give it one more minute and then we'll get going. We've got quite a lot to cover. You'll be pleased to know. So I want to make sure we've got plenty of time for those topics. Okay, I think I'm going to call it. We are recording the webinar today, so if anybody does join midway through, you will get a copy of this pushed to your email tomorrow. So you're very welcome to go back and watch that at any point that works for you. So good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we would love this to be a really inclusive and engaging webinar. Very much invite everybody to participate, to add in any challenges that you're thinking about if you're sort of from a HR perspective or a leadership perspective or anybody. We really want to sort of be talking about the dynamics that we're feeling personally at Curve, but also kind of share the pain almost and sort of share top tips and where we think the focus needs to be over the next sort of couple of months as we continue to emerge from this sort of post-pandemic world. So just a couple of really quick housekeeping bits. Like I said, it will be recorded. You will get a copy of this land nicely into your inbox. You can watch at any point. We have, with everybody coming in, silenced mobiles for now and participants so that we can get through the content. But if you have any questions at any point or you have any comments that you'd like to add in, please do use the chat facility. The Q&A facility should be in the bottom bar for you. Alternatively, when we get to the end of the deck, we will be opening up microphones and you're very welcome to ask us questions then. If you're shy today and you'd rather sit back and digest, we have on a couple of slides, including some of our contact details. So if you do want to get in touch after the webinar and pick up with us on anything that we talk about today, then you're very welcome to do so. So here we go. Next slide, please, Anna. Lovely, thank you. So very, very quickly, just a couple of opening slides, which I wanted to share with everyone today, just for perspective really, in terms of who the Curve Group are, in case you're not familiar with us. We are a privately owned HR and recruitment outsourced and consultancy business. We are 18, 19 years into this world. And one of the things that we're really, really proud of in terms of service solution that we've built for our customers is that we can deliver any blend of employee HR recruitment solutions across that entire employee life cycle. So what we're trying to do with the webinar today is just to bring together all of that expertise that we have from that really vast viewpoint and share this with you today. So our solutions can be embedded as sort of additional capability and capacity if you need that expertise to kind of execute some key HR projects, or we can come in and deliver big sort of chunky projects for you either way, but hopefully we'll share a lot of our wisdom today with you. Thank you, Anna. We're very proud, and probably what you'll hopefully get across from this webinar is we're very, very passionate about what we do and focusing on transforming working lives, and we're very proud of what we deliver, which is only evidence sort of in our day-to-day life and all the lovely feedback we get, but also some of these key awards that, again, I wanted to sort of share with you. So there's a real range there, as you can see. We've got very kind of high-level recruitment process outsource provider of the year, right the way through to sort of wellbeing focused awards. So we're very passionate about that end-to-end solution. Thank you. So my name is Sam Peasy. I head up the marketing and employer brand department at the Curve Group, and I'm here today with my wonderful colleague Anna, who heads up in the HR consultancy world. So I'm just going to do really quick introduction pieces and then pick up at the other end of the webinar before handing over to our HR expert Anna very shortly. Again, you can see our email addresses are on there, but we'll flash them up again at the end if you need them. Thank you, Anna. Feel free to flick through all of these. So as you will have seen when you signed up, we're going to cover a number of topics here and hopefully give you lots of value and things to thinking about and taking away with you. But we're going to look at what the last few years have taught us. We're going to look at what we know and what we are kind of hearing from our clients as well, in terms of sort of those HR business priorities, challenges, and the opportunities that are coming out. We're then going to try and take stock and look at what's actually on the horizon for HR going forward, bringing our head out of that post-pandemic world. We're going to talk about the resources required to move those projects forward, and then how really we would recommend and suggest that you continue on that stream, and how best to sort of position HR to get ahead of those evolving business challenges and priorities. And then finally, we'll wrap up with some key takeaways. Thank you, Anna. So as you will have gleaned from the agenda, really what we're trying to do today is kind of share our visibility, share our thoughts on where HR has been, where we are right now, and how to then enable you to sort of move that forward over the next couple of years as we move out of that pandemic effect and we all settle into our new normal, which is a phrase that I hate, but I think everyone completely, hopefully, can understand what we mean by that. So on that note, I'm going to hand over to Anna to kick the webinar off.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Sam. So let me start, I think, with what has the last 2 years taught us. So it would be amiss of me not to mention the pandemic. So the pandemic has highlighted and increased the need for resilience, agility, and of course, flexibility within HR. I think it's fair to say that employees and candidates are reviewing roles and employer offerings in a very different way. Being a recruitment outsource organisation and a recruitment product organisation, what we're also finding is that, you know, it's definitely a candidate-led market at the moment. We've absolutely got a lot of candidates that are playing organisations off against one another, and they are definitely looking at the whole package rather than just a salary or a location. The flow of updated legislation remains with us, and as we know, it will continue to roll out regardless of what's going on in the world. So all of us as HR professionals need to make sure that we're always up to date with legislation and regulations as well. In addition to that, the importance of core HR elements has not been diluted, and nor they can be ignored. So whilst we've been dealing with the pandemic over the last 2 years and everything else and all of the challenges that's been brought along, there are still other things that we've had to continue to do and will continue to do so, really. It's also fair to say that there is a new sense of trust or relationship that is emerging, and that definitely is showing in all of the organisations that we work with, between the employers and the employees, and that trust is really one of the things that's high up on the agenda when employees are looking for what's out there and what their current organisations are bringing to them. And I guess it's fair to say, as a HR professional, the work of HR is never done. I'm not going to say if nobody knows where to put it, it ends up on the desk of HR, but I'm sure you'll agree that sometimes that's how it feels. Now, to back up some of the stuff that's gone on over the last a couple of years, we've done some research behind the scenes, and I just want to show just a couple of statistics with you about what the data says for us. Now, what I'm going to do is share some key statistics, and as you'll see on each one of these statistics, in brackets, you can see where the source was and where it's come from. So if you want to expand on the research that we've done, then you're more than welcome to do so. So 86% of HR professional surveys indicated recruitment is becoming more like marketing, and we follow that through and that theme throughout this kind of webinar really as well. 70% of employees said that their sense of purpose is defined by their work, and I think that's fair to say. It's where we spend a lot of our working life, really. 69% of employees are likely to stay with a company for 3 years if their experience of great onboarding, and again, that's a common theme that we will talk about throughout this webinar, and actually have dedicated a webinar to along the lines as well, as Sam will talk to you about later on. 86% of employees and job seekers research company reviews and ratings decide where to apply for a job. And we've seen that a lot more frequently, really. So if you're not getting close to Glassdoor, it's definitely something out there, and something out there that you should start to be doing. And I think finally 75% of senior HR managers agree that collaboration, consistent communication, and a mentorship culture between managers and teams will become the future mandate of a high-performing workplace. And that's going to be key with a lot more hybrid working, a lot more remote working, and a lot more flexible working going on as well. So with that in mind, let's take a look at what the current business priorities, challenges, and opportunities are. Now, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk you through a number of areas which we believe are the current business priorities, challenges, and opportunities. But then when I go on to talk about the future, what I also want to say is some of these are duplicated. So they're not things that we're currently seeing and are going to go away. They're things that we're currently seeing, and they're also our future challenges and our future opportunities as well. I'm going to start off with the recruitment posts, so the great reshuffle, really. And what I mean by that is because there's been so much movement, the availability of talent has become even tougher, and those that have moved recently are less likely to be open to move to new opportunities again. And as I've already mentioned, it is definitely a candidate-led market, and what we are finding is that even internally we're finding that we're getting a lot of ghosting that's going on from candidates, we're getting a lot of counter offers that are going on, and we're getting a lot of organisations that are kind of almost bidding for the best person out there as well. The next one won't be a surprise to you. So equality, diversity and inclusion is a big one. We are currently working with 3 different organisations to roll out their equality, diversity and inclusion by absolutely kind of surveying where they are at the moment, by kind of then running kind of online workshops so that everybody has a foundation of what it looks like, and then actually taking those actions and driving them forward. Again, I said that I would mention this one, and it will come up on more than one occasion, and that is the challenge that organisations are having with remote onboarding and induction. It's not an easy thing to do. I think we've worked with some organisations that absolutely have nailed it, and some organisations that unfortunately haven't done it quite so well, meaning that they are losing their talent quite quickly. What we've also got to remember is our existing teams. So we've got to think about the upskilling and the training of the existing teams. And it's not just the skills that they need, but it's how you do it and a different working environment. There's not everybody that is comfortable coming back into face-to-face environments. And there's definitely not many organisations that are thinking about how they can build their training needs for the next 2 to 3 years and what that looks like with all of the changes that are taking place at the moment. Again, something that is going to be absolutely continuous, and a lot of people are taking forward at the moment, is managing employee wellbeing, and that's just taking it above and beyond your EVP line, really. That's how can you bring it to life on a day-to-day basis? How can you continually check in on employees, especially where you're not seeing employees as much as what you did do, so you're not looking them in the eye to find out how they're really doing. Flexible workplaces and policies is absolutely a challenge at the moment, especially now that we've all proved that we can work from home for a couple of years and actually things haven't kind of fallen off the face of the earth. We are definitely seeing a lot more challenges in that area, and policies need to be changed, policies need to be tightened, and policies need to become more flexible all at the same time as well. And finally, this links all the way back to kind of the great recruitment post and some of the things that we said at the start of the webinar, which is our retention and engagement. How are we going to hang on to those fantastic individuals that we've already got working for us? How are we going to hang on to them and make sure that we are looking after them from their well-being, making sure they're upskilled and trained, and making sure that we're looking after them from a flexible and a hybrid perspective as well? So that's a quick look at what we believe our current business priorities and challenges are, but what's on the horizon for HR? And again, I'm going to be quite open with you and say some of these are duplicated, and I think that there's a reason for that, and it's because those topics really are quite hot. So I'm going to start off with marketing, employer, brand and EVP. So recruit and engaging existing employees like a marketeer is the way that we need to look at it now. We absolutely need to compete in the talent-led market and evaluate your employee brand and EVP above the rest to attract and retain the right individuals. This has been gradually moving into the norm, but since the wild recruitment market, it's absolutely accelerated. So it definitely needs to be something that's on your strategic plan going forward. Next on our agenda, and can I just say, out of the 8 items that we're going to talk about, they become in no particular order. It'll be in an order that absolutely works for your organisation, but technology needs to be up there and needs to be included. Need to enhance the employee experience, that we can expect a stronger resilience on SaaS solutions to improve and enhance the end-to-end employee experience. However, the magic will only happen if HR can continue to walk that tightrope between automation and efficiency and the human interaction that is absolutely fantastic, along with all of the experience as HR professionals we bring to that technology and that onboarding experience. Next one that we've brought up on our agenda, and it's so important that we've said it 3 times, is data, data and data. So given the technology point, there will only be even more data to play with. But what it is important to do is draw out the data that matters. And it's important that you provide ongoing meaningful insights into what that gives you and what you action from it. Clearly, it's also important that you don't look at single data in splendid isolation, and you look at all of your data that you've got. And it's not just about looking at the data, it's about doing something with the data once you've got it. And again, we'll come on to that in a little bit more detail. This one I've already said, and I'm going to say it again, which is our equality, diversity and inclusion. It's still pushing to close the gender pay gaps, but the dial is firmly turning to maximise the opportunities and affording by remote, hybrid, flexible working options, which are far more commonplace post-pandemic, in order to engage with, attract and retain the most diverse talent, and obviously make sure that everybody that we've got is feeling included as well. I think the next one is really big and actually goes hand in hand with some of the stuff that you need to work on with number 1, really, which is your culture, your motivation and your reward. So how do you maintain it? How do you improve it? How do you enhance your culture when you don't have those water cooler moments anymore, or your workforce is more kind of disparate and you're kind of all over the place? In terms of reward, we've heard all about inflated salaries for those who leave, and those inflated salaries are coming between 10 and 20%, which is massive. But how do you reward the people that are loyal to you? And what we found is this can be done not just financially. So just to give you an example, here at the Curve Group, we're actually moving from a 35-hour week from a 40 week, with everybody's pay staying the same, everybody's benefits staying the same, and everybody's holidays staying the same. And what that means for most people is, compressed hours. So they'll be moving to a 4-day week, and we're very proud with what we've done, and we believe that we're one of the leading organisations in doing that. And we actually go live on the 1st of May with that kind of incentive, really. It's going to make a huge way in terms of motivations to stay, and the feedback that we've had on that has been fantastic. In addition to that, what we've also added to our culture, our motivation and our reward, and again, probably around the reward area, is that we have increased everybody's holiday in line with their length of service up to an additional 5 days. So once you get to you get an extra day for every year's worth of service, up to a maximum of 5 days, which again is a great reward for individuals as well, and quite a simple one to do for an organisation. The next one is quite a new acronym, really. So environment, social and governance. So ESG, as I said, it feels like a new acronym that's coming after D, E and I, or ED and I even. And it's going back to motivators and how employees look at the prospective talent and then look at companies and deciding who they want to work for. There's also more awareness now and more focus on the environment, the social governance routines, the offerings, and these can be big motivators for talent. Especially when they may have similar offers on the table. So what's your organisation doing around environmental, social and governance to make them an attractive place to work for? The next one is all about competing for future skill sets. Again, it's not new, but no doubt will continue to evolve. At the moment, recruitment and technical talent are the key areas for many, but what will be next, and how can you prepare and build and nurture what you've already got? And then the final one that we've got is around remote, hybrid and flexible working requests and management, really. And this just isn't about, when we talk about remote working, we are talking about maybe working from home. Hybrid working is absolutely a combination of working from home and in the office, which is what most organisations have done. But in addition to that, the number of flexible working requests and the management to manage those has increased fourfold, really. We're working with one organisation and we've currently got 63 flexible working requests that we're working through at the moment. And just all of those, all of the admin, all of the consultations and everything that needs to go working through those, along with any revised policies and the right time to kind of do those policies as well, is key. So conscious that's kind of quite a lot of information. So what I'm going to go on to now is just take a look at how you will deliver it. Oh, I'm just going to jump back there. So let's take a look at how will you deliver it, really. So there are 4 absolutely key buckets that we need to think about. You need to think about your stakeholders, you need to think about your expertise, you need to think about your champions, and as we've said before, you need to think about your data. So if you don't get stakeholder buy-in, your incentives won't succeed, really. You absolutely need that stakeholder buy-in from the top, and it needs to be taken seriously. D, E and I especially has to come through the top, and it has to be seen to be driven from that area. Expertise is key. So for example, business analysts to support the utilisation, employee experience, or any of the product needs to be done right, and it needs to be done with passion as well. Please do use the individuals that you've got with the organisation. Take some champions to drive your work streams forward. They are really great advocates and ambassadors to have on board. Everyone needs to be brought on this journey, and often the best way to do that is through the peers that you've got within the organisation. And I'm going to finish off finally with data. And what we've said about data is there is so much data available. If you want to know what's working, where any issues, challenges are, and all of those things, you now need to narrow down the focus and pick the data that will inform your decisions and actions in the future. You need to keep reviewing this and to make sure you're tracking the right thing, and to interrogate this and to absolutely question why. So for us, those 4 key buckets are really key on how you will deliver anything that you place on a strategic plan to drive your business forward. Again, one of the last things that I'm going to say really is you have to get the whole team involved, really. It's all well and good having those buckets and building the 4 key building blocks, but what's fundamental to all HR activities, and there's nothing new here, is that everyone has to play a part in embedding these in order to make them successful. From C-suite, who absolutely need to be seen to be actively sponsoring any initiatives and changes and challenges that you're putting through your SLT, through to the wider business functions that need to be on the journey, utilise and engage. And again, that can be marketing and comms, IT and data, through to line manager, and of course all of the colleagues as well. It's fair to say that it's everybody's responsibility, and I think it's really fair to say that as HR professionals, it's not just down to HR, it is down to everybody that we've named on this slide, really. What I'd like to do now is just look at prioritising HR to stay ahead, really. I'm just going to take you through a couple of key elements and draw them all together before I hand back to Sam. So I'm going to start off with, you need an informative strategic account plan, really. HR absolutely need to be involved in shaping the business's wider strategic plan, as the people and talent expertise should be drawn upon to shape the workforce elements required to deliver the plan and achieve the objectives. Keep checking back to this and ensure that you don't get distracted by non-value added activity. Keep encouraging and engaging all of your own networks, online peer groups through CIPD, CPD, just to monitor the trends and see what else is going out there, and look at the opportunities and issues that you're thinking of, and making sure that you're thinking ahead, really. Prioritise, I think, is a really key thing to do. So once the strategic plan is, start that one again, shall I? Once the strategic plan has been formulated, prioritise areas of focus depending on the urgency, the logical flow, but also the time requirements, burnout rate for each of the projects, etc. Just making sure that you've got the right resource. There may be some which can be executed swiftly, and there may be some that will need full working parties, external expertise, and procurement support as well. Again, it's that lovely word, the data. Okay, so look at the data, what's currently working, where do you have the gaps, how can you build what you have, how can you take the baselines of where they are and compare back to once you've delivered, so that you've got a really true reflection of how the projects have contributed and the before and the after. Again, I've mentioned this one, but you're not in splendid isolation. You do need to identify your work streams. You need to look at your leads for each area of focus. You need to have proper governance around any projects that you're doing. You need to look at the reporting routine, the milestones, the gateways, and all of the sign-offs as well. And finally, I think it's really key to say that you need the execution. And again, use the expertise that you need, engaging with those in the business, and make sure you do it externally as well if you need to. Please also do make sure that you keep checking back to your strategic account plan. That's absolutely key. And the final thing that I would say is just make sure that you use that engagement and then comms the entire time, just informing everything that is going on, informing the strategies, speak to your leaders, engage your colleagues, and keep reviewing and sharing the progress and take them away on the journey. So that's all for me now. I'm just going to hand over to Sam just to finish off, who's just going to look at our key takeaways really from today. So Sam, over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anna. And thank you for everyone for sticking with us. As I did mention, we've recorded this, so don't worry about trying to capture notes too fast and too furious. You'll be getting a copy of this shortly. But really quickly to round up, I'm very conscious of time. These are the kind of top 7 key points that I think if you don't take anything away with you today, this is what we'd really love to hope that you're bringing out of this from this webinar and from Anna's reflection. So be ready for change. We know that in HR and actually in the world that things can pivot incredibly quickly now, more than I think we ever anticipated, but we are resilient as functions, we are resilient as experts, and we need to continue to be ready for that change. Prioritize your focus. Again, I know it's really easy. I hear it all the time in our organisation and in others that it's difficult to focus on those strategic projects because your day-to-day stuff gets in the way. You might have hiring managers, leaders coming and sitting on your desk and asking for help with really immediate projects or problems, which is great because that's what they need, but equally it then pulls you off focus. So remember, think about how you can make that time to focus on the strategic projects, whether that's allocating tasks internally, bringing in some additional resource to keep you really, really focused. And do not forget, you need to try and make sure you're not straying away from your strategic plan, and that everything that you are doing and spending most of your time on is really building the organisation to achieve those sort of long-term goals. Anna's mentioned it a few times, and I think, again, we've got lots of other webinars purely focused around just these topics, but don't forget your basics, your BAU areas of focus that no doubt you would have worked so incredibly hard on building and then tweaking in light of everything that's happened in the last couple of years, but you cannot take your eye off the ball in terms of recruitment, onboarding and training, because they all still really matter, if in fact even more so now that we're in this sort of strange hybrid world. Visibility and buy-in of support. Again, Anna's already covered it, but you absolutely need to make sure that you're bringing everybody in the company on the journey with you. And you really do need to get those sort of champions, those sponsors in your sort of C-suite level to make sure that they're clearing the way for you for that. And helping to alleviate any blockers that you may face. Same with employees. You have got to use your employees, survey them, get their opinions, encourage those that are really passionate about particular areas to act as your champions for you, and to keep feeding that in and encourage them to push ideas up to you. It doesn't all need to come from the top, actually. It might be that there are some great ideas kind of on the ground level which could be fed through and actually could make life a lot better in terms of retention, attraction, engagement. So always listen. Technology, again, Anna's talked about it. I see an awful lot in the market, lots of noise and excitement about the wonderful things that we could do with AI and bots and all these worthy platforms, which I think is fantastic, and the world is definitely moving that way, but we can't replace that human expertise and experience. So I think going forward, it's all about keeping a level head and how we connect that tech with the expertise and making sure that anything else you're bringing in is just helping and not hindering your progress. And again, finally, I won't say it 3 times, but it's data. Keep an eye on your data, have a look at your baseline before you start anything, so you can then evidence the impact that you're having in terms of improvements. Thank you, Anna. So hopefully that's been useful. Like I say, I'm conscious of time. We've got 1 whole minute left, and many of you may need to drop off now, but if you've got any questions, now is the time. Please feel free to shout. Alternatively, you can very welcome to drop us an email and pick it up offline, or get in touch via the website, and we'll be very happy to have a further conversation with you.
I can't see any questions coming up, Sam, so I've moved on to what's coming up next.
No worries, thank you. So just to wrap up the webinar again, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope that was useful, just to, if not just to sort of share the pain a little bit, but also to bring some of our wider view. But of course, we are here if you need any support in terms of follow-up conversations. We can do things like take a completely impartial review of your HR function or particular elements. We can be there as that external support, deliver, you know, those really nice discrete projects to then evolve you to your workforce and strategic plan. We can also, you'll probably be more interested in knowing, take away some of that grunt work, the sort of daily stuff that really bogs HR departments down, so that you can focus on your strategic projects. So if any of that is appealing or of any interest and you want to know more, then again, feel free to get in touch.
We have actually got a question in from Mark, Sam, so just to let you know. So Mark, thank you very much for your question. That's fantastic. I will open up your mic, Mark, so if you want to speak to us, then you're more than welcome to do so. So you're actually off mute at the moment. I've had a look at your question. So just in terms of what we're seeing at the moment is a lot of new employees that are coming into organisations are definitely putting the location down under place of work as hybrid working. So it doesn't actually state whether it's at home, but they are then absolutely putting down that there is, they're putting a clause in there that they are expecting X amount of days to be in the office, or if there's a business requirement that you need to be in the office. Where that becomes as a challenge and where you need to kind of look at it in a little bit more detail is in terms of the travel element. So we've had, even in the Curve Group, we've had some individuals that have now moved away from the local area and done that throughout the pandemic. So we've had to have a conversation with them around expenses and all of those contractual things as well that sit beside it. Mark, I'm more than happy to take it offline with you and pick up with you kind of offline if you want a little bit more of an in-depth conversation around it as well.
Thanks, Anna. That's helpful.
No, you're very welcome.
Thank you, Mick. Much appreciated. No more questions, so let's flick through to the next slide. Please, Anna, just to wrap up.
Yep.
So just to flash in front of you, we reference actually that we've got lots of webinars on any number of these topics that we've covered, which are already live, and you can access them on demand. So do feel free to go and have a look at that via our website on our insights page. And also in terms of what's coming up next, we have, again, I mentioned onboarding is still absolutely key and critical, particularly in the world that we're currently operating in and will continue to operate in. So we're doing a next webinar on that at the end of May, and how to make sure you're delivering that effective onboarding process for new starters, regardless of where they are, you know, regardless of if they will be in the office or they will be remote. June, we're going to then be looking back at trying to reduce that time to hire. We know at Curve we've seen it really spike, and actually we can see that it's settling again, but like Hannah mentioned, we now know, because there's been so much movement, that's very likely to start creeping up again. So we're going to really focus on how to build those talent pools and nurturing those pipelines to try and alleviate some of that time to hire pressure. We're then going to take a break for the summer. I'm sure everyone is looking forward to a little bit of a break and maybe some summer holidays. But we will be returning in September with a massive focus and a whole series of webinar content and interviews, etc., on the topic that will never go away, nor should it, in terms of equality, diversity, inclusion. And we've got a whole wealth of partners that we'll be drawing on to do live interviews with, and Facebook Lives, etc., for that. So we do hope that you'll would like to come and join us for any number of those in the future. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think it's fair to say on behalf of Sam and I, thank you very much for joining us today. As we've said, the recording will be out to you probably tomorrow, I would have thought. So thank you very much for participating today. It's been a pleasure to have you all on board. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.